السلام. أشهدك يا مولاي أني أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله، لا حبيب إلا هو وأهله. وأشهدك يا مولاي أن عليا أمير المؤمنين حجته، والحسن حجته، والحسين حجته، وعلي بن الحسين حجته، ومحمد بن علي حجته، وجعفر بن محمد حجته، وموسى بن جعفر حجته، وعلي بن موسى حجته، ومحمد بن علي حجته، وعلي بن محمد حجته، والحسن بن علي حجته. وأشهد أنك حجة الله أنتم الأول والآخر، وأن رجعتكم حق لا ريب فيها، يوم لا ينفع نفسا إيمانها لم تكن آمنت من قبل أو كسبت في إيمانها خيرا، وأن الموت حق، وأن ناكرا ونكيرا حق. وأشهد أن النشر حق، والبعث حق، وأن الصراط حق، والمرصاد حق، والميزان حق، والحشر حق، والحساب حق، والجنة والنار حق، والوعد والوعيد بهما حق. يا مولاي شقي من خالفكم، وسعد من أطاعكم، فاشهد على ما أشهدتك عليه، وأنا ولي لك بريء من عدوك. فالحق ما رضيتموه، والباطل ما أسخطتموه، والمعروف ما أمرتم به، والمنكر ما نهيتم عنه. فنفسي مؤمنة بالله وحده لا شريك له، وبرسوله، وبأمير المؤمنين، وبكم يا مولاي أولكم وآخركم، ونصرتي معدة لكم، ومودتي خالصة لكم. آمين آمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And welcome to another Friday night program at the Imam Hussein Islamic Center. I ask all those in attendance at the center to please observe some of our COVID safety precaution rules, to please make sure you have checked in at the front desk upon entry, to follow proper social distance by keeping a 1.5 meter distance, and to make sure you are always wearing a mask as it is now mandatory across the state. Thank you all for understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all your efforts, inshaAllah. I now ask you to recite one loud salawat as we welcome Sayyid Muhammad Ali to come up and bless this evening with a few verses from the Holy Quran. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يسبح لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض الملك القدوس العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. وآخرين منهم لما يلحقوا بهم وهو العزيز الحكيم. ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله ذو الفضل العظيم. مثل الذين حملوا التوراة ثم لم يحملوها كمثل الحمار يحمل أسفارا بئس مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآيات الله والله لا يهدي القوم الظالمين. قل يا أيها الذين هادوا إن زعمتم أنكم أولياء لله من دون الناس فتمنوا الموت إن كنتم صادقين ولا يتمنونه أبدا بما قدمت أيديهم والله عليم بالظالمين. قل إن الموت الذي تفرون منه فإنه ملاقيكم ثم تردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. فإذا قضيت الصلاة فانتشروا في الأرض وابتغوا من فضل الله واذكروا الله كثيرا لعلكم تفلحون. وإذا رأوا تجارة أو لهوا انفضوا إليها وتركوك قائما قل ما عند الله خير من اللهو ومن التجارة والله خير الرازقين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsan Sayyid, can we please recite another loud salawat for that beautiful recitation? I now ask we recite 3 loud salawat as we welcome Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi to come up for tonight's lecture. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن ولا ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله اللهم لعنهم جميعا ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. The problem when it comes to historical text and what's written in history, it's all based on perspective. In fact, it was Napoleon Bonaparte that said history is nothing more than a bunch of lies agreed upon. And this is what happens. People win a battle, they will only document, or win a war, they'll only document what makes them look good. They will never write what war crimes took place. You know, we walked in, they'll show the good side of the soldiers in the battlefield. They'll never show you the entire story. Then when we hear the narrations from the other side is when we get the complete picture. What really took place. And then some of these, what they call winter soldiers, the ones in the military that can't handle what took place, they will relay what really happened. A lot of the time when people complain about history and events, people say, how accurate is the story of Fatima alayha salam, or how accurate are the events in Karbala? And people actually do gatherings where they'll sit there and start questioning some of the stories. The problem is what we have is little of what actually took place. We have a few narrations, if you notice, when the reciter says, An Hamid al Muslim, that I saw this happen and that happen. A few people that got up and actually mentioned something. And this is what we have within our hands. And as you move along in life, new books start to appear. And history's always been damning like this. I was a child in year 2, and a day like this that's coming towards in 4 days' time is what they call what? Australia Day. We like it because it's a public holiday. You know, if you're working, you get a day off work, so everyone's happy about Australia Day. But reality, when I was a child, we were told, and the audacity of this statement, we were told, you know, there was a guy called William Jansen, or William Jansen, or Jansen, was the first person to see Australia. Then they'd say names like Dirk Hartog, and then they would say William Dampier, Abel Tasman. And then I realized Australia was being discovered. How could it be discovered if there were people that were already on the land? Then I realized it was being discovered because it's only recognized when it's done by a European, or in more specific terms, a Western European, or even in more specific terms, a white Anglo-Saxon European. And that's a fact. And that's how history has always been. If I asked you in trivia, if I asked you who made the telephone, what would people say? Alexander Graham Bell. Isn't that what everyone says? Even though the phone was designed by Alberto Meucci, an Italian, 9 years before Alexander Graham Bell, but he was a Western European. That's good. But he wasn't a white Anglo-Saxon Western European. So he didn't get that same recognition. And likewise, the people that got recognition for the discovery of this nation were people that were white Anglo-Saxon European. I'm not here to talk like a grand wizard of a Black Panther movement. No, but I'm here to state what really took place, because you are living in Australia, and it's imperative that you understand the implications of how you treat Australia Day and how it affects. Scott Morrison recently said, in Australia Day, it's all about acknowledging how far we've come. You know, when those 12 ships turned up in Sydney, it wasn't a particularly flash day for the people on those vessels either. Firstly, there wasn't 12 ships. If he had done his history properly, First Fleet only had 11 ships. But secondly, where he said it wasn't particularly a flash day for the people on those vessels, that's true. There were people on the convicts that were on these ships. There were people that were oppressed also. They were the serfs and the commoners of England that were lived there and that were brought over for petty crimes. And the thing is, we came over to live in this country. It's very good for us to know the history of this country. And it's very important. Why? Because long ago, to be exact, 250 years ago, there used to be, before an actual Western European landed here, Captain James Cook in 1770, he landed 250 years ago. There used to be indigenous people that lived on this country and lived freely in this country. They hunted on this country, on the lands here. They made this land their place of living. Then 18 years after that, so we'll say 232 years ago, on the 26th of January, which is Australia Day, Captain Arthur Phillip landed with the First Fleet to settle this country. Now the thing is, when we sit and talk about this, we talk as if this was the first time that the natives had any contact with outsiders. But this isn't true. The natives, the indigenous people that lived on this land, actually had contact with Muslims before. And they had trade with these Muslims. And they were living with these Muslims. And they had good exchanges with these Muslims. These Muslims were proper Muslims in the sense they traded honestly and they weren't there to kill, unlike the Arab oil barons that exist now that sell people's lives for pennies. Now, why is it important that I'm using this number to mention this? The population of the indigenous people in Australia, was slaughtered on a mass scale. And their plight, the way you see them, the way they live, is a consequence of this invasion and the slaughter. And it's basically the primary reason for their plight today. Firstly, the 26th of January is a day of oppression. And we as Muslims need to understand, and we need to act on this when we understand this point. We should understand and acknowledge the reasons for their plight. Why is this necessary as a Muslim? Why is it necessary? Why do I need to understand this? Because Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, when he spoke to his sons, he says, وَكُونَا, to Imam Hassan Hussein, لِلظَّالِمِ خَصْمًا وَلِلْمَظْلُومِ عَوْنًا. Be an enemy to an oppressor and be an aid or a helper to the oppressed. He did not say be an enemy to the one that oppresses the Muslims. And he did not say be an aid to a Muslim that is oppressed. These terms were not used. He spoke against oppression. A Muslim is someone that is defiant when it comes to oppression. And one of the things I heard a lot of people, if you notice a lot of the footballers and sports stars that didn't talk against Macron speaking ill against the Prophet, but they'll always talk about the Uyghurs in China. Yes, the Uyghurs in China are oppressed, I accept. But if you're really concerned about the plight of people being oppressed, no one's ever spoken about Guantanamo Bay and the Muslims that are still there in these prisons. No one speaks about that anymore. No one speaks about the oppression that is taking place up till today in Yemen on a great scale. Why have we forgotten all this? And now all of a sudden, because I knew the issue of the Uyghurs was big. When Mike Pompeo spoke against this issue, something's wrong. You know, to be saying something with this guy, to agree with this guy is a bit of an issue. There is oppression. I still have to stand against that. But we have what's called, we prioritize what is more of a priority than something else. So we oppose the oppressor, we assist the oppressed, because Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam was a rahmatu lil alameen. He was a mercy to the worlds, not to the Muslims, to the entire world. The messenger of God. So the thing is, with this specific day, it is a celebration of the settlement of this country. I'm not someone that's backwards to the point where I say civilization's not good. No, civilization's excellent. If you come into a country, you allow them to have housing, infrastructure, you help them. I remember when I was traveling to the United Kingdom back during the war in Iraq, and I was lecturing there. This would have been early 2000s when America invaded Iraq. And I got stopped there, and I was being questioned by the secret agent there when they took me in, whatever they call them, the secret police. I'm talking Middle Eastern terms. Anyway, so I was talking to this person, and he was investigating me, and he said to me, "What's your opinion on the war in Iraq?" And I gave him a true answer, and this is what I really believe. I honestly believe this from the bottom of my heart. I said, any British or American soldier that went to Iraq to liberate the people and help the people and build their country and make them a functioning country again, I'm with them and I support them fully. I said, but any British or American soldier that went there to murder, rape, pillage, and steal, and all these other things, I said, God willing, they return in a body bag. That's my response to everything. That if someone that depends on the individual, what are you there to do? What is your purpose? So if the settlers that came to this country came with the intention to fix this country and civilize this country and have growth in the economy and help the people and whatever, then this was a good thing to improve, but not to invade and murder. So the Australia Day should not be a day where we celebrate a settlement because it sounds like a nice handover. Should be something where we commemorate what took place. Shouldn't be a place where we celebrate a good event. We should actually celebrate the good events that took place and mourn the sad events that took place. Because reality, this day, there is a celebration of the destruction of a nation. A question on why I find this very important, because Australia Day is about to come along. And if I show you a swastika, if I hold up a flag of the Third Reich, the Nazi flag. If I was to fly this flag and drive through the eastern suburbs, would that be offensive to the people there? The people, some of them, who would have been descendants of people that were killed by Adolf Hitler. It would be offensive, wouldn't it be? If you remember, I think it was one of the football clubs, I think it was Liverpool, where he put someone put a picture of the flag of the rising sun, which is the Japanese flag from World War II, and the Koreans went crazy. They said, how dare you put this flag up, it is so offensive. Could you imagine that you weren't up to a Palestinian person and you were wearing the Israeli flag? How offensive would they find that? So all these examples, the reason I'm giving them to you, is why when you go draped, you see these women that wear a hijab that's got the Union Jack on them. Really? You're wearing a hijab with the Union Jack. This Union Jack, what was you know the Union Jack, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? I'm talking about the British flag. The Australian flag in its own right is an offensive flag. Because that is the flag a lot of the Aborigines saw, the indigenous people, before their country was destroyed. It's an offensive flag. So when you sit there and wear this flag, and you turn up and you're waving it thinking, yes, I'm one of... No, it's an offensive flag. It is a flag that has offense. So if I stand alone, and if I stand around and I display this to them, it shows then when I want the support, when I'm getting oppressed, these people say, how dare you? You see oppression here and you do not accept it. One of the incidents I remember, and some of you would have remembered the Adam Goods incident, when he was being racially vilified and abused by members in the audience, in the crowd, when he was playing, I won't call it football because it's Victorian, when he was playing Aussie rules. So when he was being vilified by the people said, oh, you should have thick skin. No, you don't understand. You want to understand what racism and this effect is? I will tell you what the problem with it is. Take a look at America. Do you remember the incursion into Capitol Hill, where all the white extremist groups went into Capitol Hill? They were basically being escorted in by the police officers. Ahla wa sahla, tfaddalo. Do what you want. Yes, bet baytkun. It's your home, you can do whatever you want. What was the reaction when the black people were protesting? What did Donald Trump say when the looting starts? The shooting starts. Just kill them. That's how it was. Because we're doing it anyway. Police are just killing them in patrol anyway. So you're behind the 8 ball the whole time. Being black, you're behind the 8 ball. The indigenous people, so people say, oh, why don't they get a job? What do you mean why don't they? They get looked at differently. If you want to feel like how it feels like to be an indigenous person in this world, or a black person in this world, one guy said, I found out how they feel. He said I had a pit bull terrier dog, and I was walking on the street with the dog, and he said people started crossing the road. He said for that second I felt how a black person feels when they walk on the street. People are afraid, because always people think that this person's going to attack me because of the image that's given out. That's why they're petrified of this. This is one side. We look at the indigenous people that were oppressed. But were they the only people that were oppressed on Australia Day? The other people that were oppressed on Australia Day were the convicts, the people that came along. The people that were brought in these boats by force. The problem is when you don't recognize these events, that's how you become what? That's how you become okay when you see any kind of oppression. So what? They were being brought along. They were forced into these countries. They came here in chains. They were forced to work. And they were impoverished and brought into this land. So this is the birth of how this nation was formed and came together. Then you can say, all right, this is Australia Day. Let us talk about what took place in the event. Where does this link with our religion? Number one, what is our job when it comes to dealing with this situation? Anyone that assists any form of despotism, or you would say tyranny, or any form of oppression, is a part of this oppression. So if I'm someone that sits there and does not realize what you're doing, it's like, sometimes you sit down and the day of Nakba, as the Palestinians call it. What's the day of Nakba? Does anyone remember what it is? What does Nakba mean? It means there's catastrophe. The day where their land was stripped off in front of them. Honestly, how do you as Muslims feel when you see someone waving the Israeli flag? Honestly, how do you feel? Do you feel elated? Feel, wow, he's proud? Do you feel normal about it? Why don't you feel like that? Because in you don't like oppression. You hate oppression. You don't support oppression. So within us, we're against all forms of oppression. But let's take a look at where oppression lies. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam talks, he says, Al-Amil bil-Dhulm wal-Mu'inu lah wal-Radi bih. So Al-Amil bil-Dhulm, the one that oppresses. Wal-Mu'inu lah, the one that helps him, aids him, or assists him. Wal-Radi bih, the one that is pleased with oppression. What do we say? Al-Radi bih is someone that what? Accepts it. Do you remember when any form, like Hajj, the killing of Hajj Qasim Sulaimani and Hajj Abu Mehdi al-Muhandis, all these people that were complicit with it, they all accepted it. They didn't even condemn it. So anyone that is pleased with oppression, we're not talking about oppression of the Ma'soom, no oppression of Rasulullah, no oppression, this is another level of oppression altogether. But oppression in general, if you are someone that sees wrong and you assist wrong, you are the doer of wrong, or you assist it, someone's wronging someone, or someone accepts. I'll give you an example. If you see someone being robbed, the person robbing this person, the person helping the robbery take place, and the person that is a lookout for this robbery, for you, is there a difference between the three of them? Don't they all need to be working in conjunction for the robbery to take place? What would you do if there was someone that could see in the robbery take place that was capable of doing something about it and didn't do anything about it? Said, not my business. Capable. We're saying someone that's capable. So like, for example, I see someone robbing someone with an AK-47 and all I have is lint in my pockets. I just walk away with my hands. Like, I can't do much about it. Say bad luck, hope he's wearing a bulletproof vest on his head, What am I going to do about it? There's absolutely nothing I can do about it. But I can do something here, whether with my hand, with my voice, to even reject it in my heart. So he says, Al-Amilu bil-Dhulm wal-Mu'inu lah wal-Radi bih Shuraka Thalathatuhum. Who says this? Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. Shuraka Thalathatuhum. So these people that are that do the oppression, those that help in the oppression, those that accept the oppression, the Imam says they are all partners. It's what? What do we call it? It's an association. It's a conspiracy. They're all together. They're one and the same. Because without them, this couldn't have happened. The Messenger of Allah goes a bit further, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He says, إِذَا كَانَ يَوْمُ الْقِيَامَةِ, if it becomes on the day of judgment. He says, نَادَى مُنَادٍ أَيْنَ الظَّلَمَةِ. A caller will call out and say, where are the oppressors? وَأَعْوَانُ الظَّلَمَةِ, and the helpers of the oppressors. And then he says, وَمَنْ لَاقَ لَهُمْ دَوَاتًا أَوْ رَبَتَ لَهُمْ كِيسًا. Allahu Akbar. What's dawat? We're talking about the scribes or even the ink. And then he says, أَوْ رَبَتَ لَهُمْ كِيسًا. Even if you tie a bag for them, you worked with them, because they need all this. They need all this. This is important. They need your acceptance for them to do what they do. They need this acceptance for them to be able to do what they do. You know, a lot of people, this is why I'm mentioning this. Not only Australia Day, the other problem was the departure of Donald Trump. Do you know how many foolish people actually think the departure of Donald Trump is the end of the tyranny? What, do you think Donald Trump was the one that oppressed everybody? Donald Trump was one piece of the Lego. He was just someone involved in the whole thing. You know, as one journalist wrote, he wrote, the difference between Trump and every other president was a few mean tweets. It's the truth. That's all the difference was. He just was really nasty in his tweeting. But they're all the same. They're all still going to kill Muslims. You're still their terrorist. As I said, you're still their sand nigger. You're not going to be anything more than that. That's all you're going to be the whole time. As far as they're concerned, you're a terrorist. They're not going to see you any other form than this. So even those that tie a bag for them, he says, أَوْ مَدَّهُمْ بِمَدَّةِ قَلَمٍ. And if you were to write even for them in this, firstly, what we said, that gives them any form of supply or anything where they give in any form of assistance. Then he says that the caller on the day of judgment will say, فَاحْشُرُوهُمْ مَعَهُمْ. Put them all together. Place them all together. They are no different. There's no difference. I accept oppression. Taban, I need to explain something. There's a difference between someone that does this willingly and someone that is what? Compelled. You know, in Australian law, we have what's called duress. If you commit a crime while someone has compelled you to do it. Say, for example, someone says, go rob a bank. He's coming to your house, he's put your children at gunpoint. He goes, go rob a bank or I'll kill your kids. And you do it under that reason, you're compelled. And where do we hear this from? We hear this when Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan sends a letter to Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, salawatullahi wa salamu alayh, and he says to him that the people, الناس اجتمعوا علي ولم يجتمعوا عليك, that the people have all accepted me but they haven't accepted you. And the Imam then gives two types of people in the response. He goes, those that have accepted you are two types of people. There is the one that's muqra, the one that is being compelled, and then there's the muti'ah. There's the one that is willing when they do it. He says, as for the one that has been compelled or has been forced, فَإِنَّهُ مَعْذُورٌ فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ, that he has been excused by Allah in the Quran, hasn't he? وَأَمَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهْ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. As for those that have been compelled, where their heart is full of belief. Who did this verse come about? Do you remember who the story was about? It's Ammar ibn Yasir. He was 55 years old. Wasn't young, he was 55. And his parents were killed before his eyes. And they said, if you do not disbelieve in God, we will kill you with your parents. So he said, okay, I disbelieve in God. And they let him go, and he came back and he was crying. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I reneged, Ya Rasulullah, I forsook God. And Rasulullah said, no, You did not. And the verse came down, and then he said about Ammar, Ammar is full of faith from his head to his toes. He's full of faith. So in that case, someone's compelled, but there's people that do it willingly. People that I remember once that when Sheikh Al-Urayfi, I don't know if you've seen Sheikh Al-Urayfi, I've mentioned him before on the Mambar. He's probably one of, if you ever look up this guy, he's the one, remember I told you, he said that the Prophet sold alcohol. So Prophet has a pub. But he's probably the most popular Salafi out there. They actually like his discussions. When he was in London, one of the Shia people asked to take a photo with him. Billahi alayk, it's like you want to take a selfie with a sewer rat. Now that's even more honorable. So he wanted to take a selfie with this man. Did you know even Urayfi had more honor than this man? Urayfi said, this is a Shia, he wants to take a photo with me. If you see the picture, Urayfi is sitting in the car and he's leaning away from the Shia so he doesn't get cooties. He's moving as much as he can, and the Shia is right next to the window of the car trying to get a picture with Urayfi. Allahumma taqabbal minna hadha al-khalil. Please, oh Allah, accept for me. I'm taking a photo with Urayfi. There are some people like that. They want to be close. Or have you seen that other guy that wears the garb of a sheikh? Because he's not a sheikh. He dresses like a sheikh. He always takes photos around Donald Trump and he pays allegiance to Donald Trump. There's people like that all the time in the world. They want acceptance. Donald Trump wouldn't even know who he was or who he is. Or if you won't even know this. These people want to be accepted and they follow because they want to be with them on the day of judgment. This is the problem with not recognizing oppression. When the Imam rises and you are someone that accepts oppression, no, you aid oppression, or you even don't speak against oppression. When the Imam reappears, do you think you're going to run and follow him? You must think a lot of yourself, you do. I'll give you an example. Say I'm at work and it's prayer time, I need to pray. See these people that leave their prayer to qada till after work. They come home, they go, I was nijis. They come home, they leave their prayer as qada. They're the same people when the Imam rises, they say, qada, I'll go see him later. My favourite show's on right now, I'll finish that. When I'm free, I'll go, what do you think? You're going to run? Why won't they run? To stand with who? With God. Salah is your meeting with Allah. Is there anything greater than Allah? I'm running away from it. I leave it till later. We think this is the representative of God. If God himself, I'm not going to stand up for God. I'm going to run after the representative of God. If I see oppression and I don't stand, and lo and behold, I could be talking, I swear, some people, I'll be talking, he's already getting his Australian flags painted on his face, ready to be one and the same. You want to go there and recognize, at least go there and wear at least colours where you recognize the oppression of the Aborigines on the day, the indigenous people, if you want to be a part of the people that recognize this day. Be a person that recognizes oppression. A person that sees this as wrong. And it's imperative. Because if you're not someone that sees oppression and stands against oppression. And we're not saying we're not saying this under one banner for you to follow a certain khat or a certain way. I'm telling you, you're free. You're free as Muslims. Allah Azza wa Jalla has given you the freedom when you see something go wrong to stand against it. Don't be people that accept what's wrong. Don't be people that accept any of oppression. Because there is a day where Allah Azza wa Jal brings them all together. Those that commit the crime, those that aid them in committing the crime, and those that are complicit with the crime, that accept the crime, that do not speak against the crime. This is the whole message that we have in all the stories of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. When we listen to the calamities, take a look at the stories, the same story pattern. If you take a look at the martyrdom of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. Yes, when her house was attacked, take a look, when her house was attacked, there were the perpetrators, those that oppressed her, those that attacked the home of Fatima. Then there were those that said, Inna fil bayt Fatima. There are those that said that in the house is Fatima. What did they do? Did they come to aid Fatima? They took off. They're no good either. Where were they? Even when we talk about the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, that those that were there staunch on killing the family of Rasulullah, that they said everyone that wanted to kill the Imam would refrain, as if they'd say, oh, that's a bit too far. But they were there and they were complicit with what was going on. Imam after Imam, the people that accepted the oppression, and that's why had the Imam oppressed. If the people had stood up, this would never have happened. If the people had said, no, this isn't happening. If they rose and they said, this isn't acceptable. But instead, people lean right over. They accept what's going on. Even if you take a look today, they wanted to do, on Australia Day, a recognition of Margaret Court. Just to give you an idea, and the reason it's important for me to mention these. You might say, what's this got to do with Islam? It's important. Because this is the country you live in to know what's going on here. Because this shows you the power of those that want to force opinion on you. Margaret Court, does anyone know who she is? She's an Australian tennis player. She actually won a Grand Slam. She's won all four: Wimbledon, US Open, French Open, Australian Open. She's won more Grand Slam titles than Serena Williams, 24. She's won more than Serena Williams. Do you imagine? And she is like Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer put together. She's the best thing that's ever come out of female tennis. She had an arena named after her. All this got taken away because she refused to accept the LGBT marriages. It was removed from her. They wanted to give her an award. The Premier of Victoria stood up and said, do not even give her this award. She's a shame to us. She doesn't believe in equality. And what people do, they remain silent. How many of the Christian lobby groups stand up and fight with her? No, they left her there as a lamb for the slaughter. And this is what happens Islamically. When something like this occurs, people just leave you there to waste, to rot away. And people understand, people say, no, I don't want any trouble. I might lose my job, I might lose this. But what happened to standing up for right? What happened? Your right as an Australian is to be heard here and have an opinion. It's your right. You're not calling for anyone to be killed. You're saying what's your fundamental right in the Quran. The Quran and the Bible both say that this act is an abomination. So if there's something wrong with the Quran and the Bible, why hasn't the Australian government banned the Quran and the Bible? They still allow you to recite it if it calls for these kind of things. If it calls for, as the term that they use, that, what's the word that they use? Homophobia. That's the term they use. People that hate things that are the same. No. The term that they use there. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to hasten the reappearance of our master Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi, and to make us of those that stay aloof from oppression, that stand against the oppressor and that assist the oppressed. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal not to take us from this world until He is pleased with us. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والأرواح موتانا وموتاكم رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات على محمد وآله.